Hi guys, Karis here, and I'm at an overlook point in Sedona close to my house, so as I'm talking to you, I'm going to give you a view of what I can see because you should see it, it's really good. So, what I would like to talk to you guys about today is the concept of archetype and of soul group, because when I've realized how this works, it's not something that I've studied or read anybody else's stuff on. It's something that kind of came organically to me, but then once it did, I've spoken to a lot of friends about it who agree, and also have read a couple things since then on how it might work. And this is something that's not to be seen as a limitation, so take it or leave it. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then don't take it in. But it's meant to be a freeing thing. And the way that this started coming to me was one of the things that reincarnation is often defended against by is saying, well, everyone says they're the same things. Why does no one ever say that they were a slave working in Europe during some random time period or whatever, you know? And the truth is, people who actually do past life stuff, they do see that. That does happen. But it is true that a lot of people say, I was Cleopatra, I was Joan of Arc, da-da-da-da-da, right? And I also think that that's how the original gods, the pantheon of gods, became gods. I don't think they were necessarily gods, although they did have access to technologies that weren't understood and now we still don't understand, because it was in a different kind of paradigm than what we're in now. But I think that what happened was they were kind of the same thing, and then they worked themselves up to have stories made about them because of their deeds and all that kind of thing. So I do believe that something interesting happens to human souls once we lead really epic lifetimes. And like I said, we do know people who have done this, Joan of Arc, Cleopatra, etc. And what happens is, rather than incarnating again as one soul, they moved so much stuff around on the webs of the planetary consciousness, because in classic psychology, Carl Jung talks about the archetypal energies, these personality type things that are alive in themselves but also are represented in each person. And I think what happens after you make enough stuff move in your life is you go archetypal, right? And you no longer incarnate in one person. I think the soul that was incarnating through the one person probably goes and does something else, which is why a lot of people, when they learn that there is an option to possibly not incarnate again in a human soul form, in a body, want it. They say, oh, I don't want to come back here again. Now, whether or not they'll change their mind once they're on the other aspect of existence looking back, that remains to be seen. But I think that it's because in our paradigm right now, a lot of people are playing with the energies of going archetypal. And what happens when you go archetypal is you become a branch of a soul group. So like anything in nature, the consciousness that makes up humanity expands in fractals and branches and that type of growth, the same thing that a tree does, the same thing that galaxies do, etc. And so when you're talking about a soul group, you're talking about one of those souls that went big and then went archetypal and kind of supernovaed out and then became an ingredient for lots of people to draw from when they're making up their unique alchemical blend of what their incarnation is going to be like. So that's why you have a lot of people who say, well, I was Cleopatra. Well, I think they probably were. Not exactly, but they were one of the many. Mary Magdalene, like I said, Joan of Arc, Alexander the Great, kings and queens and gods and goddesses and things like that. And so when we talk about that from our perspective now, that means that while it is important to know what we are, and learning what archetypes we resonate with can explain a lot of things about our own personalities and our own quirks and even sometimes our physical characteristics and things like that, because it's all an energetic blend. While that's important and handy and useful, one of the things that I like to think about is, and to affirm, that I don't care what I was, I don't care what lifetime anyone has lived, what they have done, or any of that. What are you doing now? And what are you manifesting here in this dimension? Not just up on the astrals, not just on your computer screen, but what can you make to make the world more epic here? And I think that once we move these grids and once we shift the things that we're meant to shift, which you know by examining your own passions and seeing what you're good at, then I think that in this lifetime we do have the opportunity to do something like go archetypal, which means that after we have chosen to shed these lifetimes, whatever that means for us personally, I think that more new options are going to open up for us, and I stuttered on that, so that goes to show how intense that energy is, that idea. Anyway, I do think that that might be an option. going forward. So that explains some of the reincarnation things and what going archetypal is and what archetypes are. And also there are so many archetypes, of course all the gods and goddesses, but different types of elemental spirits. You know, there's like a fairy archetype, a mermaid archetype, dragons, and of course all the things in common knowledge that people talk about for that type of thing. So anyway, that's just some info for you guys. I hope it was clear enough. I'm really captivated by this beautiful sunset and the things going on in the landscape. So hopefully I transmitted this info well enough. But much love, go in peace, and I will see you guys on the astrals.